Hi.
Hello.
Hey, Charlene, how are you?
Good. How about you?
Good.
Did you have a nice holiday?
Absolutely. Yeah. I had
Oh,
all the family came and my mom even came from Estevan. So
oh wow. Well, that's
Wow.
yeah.
great.
Yeah. She's going to be 80. So she came by
Oh,
herself.
Wow.
oh,
Yeah. So that was like a treat. The
that's
kids
Oh,
awesome.
they got a pierogi lesson.
Oh, you gotta like those kind of things. That makes
Yeah.
it just more of a holiday.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
and did she drive?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So
that's
yeah.
great.
So how about you?
Me, yeah, it was pretty quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we were away just before Christmas, so then
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and then we came back and it was pretty quiet,
Yeah.
but I mean, that's all right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mine was
So
anything but quiet. I come from a big family, so yeah, like we had like 30 people stuck in my son's house and then on Boxing Day we headed to Alberta to see Dale's family. So it was a
yeah.
whirlwind, but it was great. We got to see everybody and
Yeah.
that was lots of visiting and all of that, lots of traveling and way too much eating.
Yeah.
Yep. It used to be like that. My mom has seven brothers and sisters, so and they'd always be home for Christmas with all the kids. So you can imagine it's like, and then that was down in Latman, so we used to go every year when I was a kid. As you, oh, I
Uh,
know that it's not the same anymore. I don't know.
yeah. My dad's family's always done that, that there's four or five of them that always, and their kids all get together and we always still have that big, and it's fun. Like
Yeah,
it's, and they
Hmm.
grew up in a little house, so they don't mind being squished. I always worried,
yeah,
everybody needs space and they're
yeah,
all like, don't worry about it. And I'm having a, no, they said,
yeah.
so yeah, we had good.
So I have three sisters, and all nobody gets along. So
Oh,
it's I have one of those families.
Oh, we all have those
So
too. That
yeah,
mine's not all rosy. We all have those too.
yeah, yeah. So no, like to the point they're not talking to each other at all. So
but
it's
did
like
they show up for Christmas?
no, oh no,
Oh, okay.
no, 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 no. It's way.
It's serious stuff. Yeah.
Serious.
I don't even think you can classify it as dysfunctional at that point. It's like not functional at all. It's just like yeah, nothing, you know?
uh,
My dad had seven siblings and I had piles of cousins, like 15. Like I have the best memories of just Christmas, everybody
Yeah,
being in these little houses and
and,
the kids in the
yeah,
basement and
and
eating
yeah,
whatever.
we always
Yeah.
had the joke was you never got to the adult table because there were first we were at the kids table and then we had our own kids and we still can't sit at the adult table,
yeah,
so that's always our joke.
yeah.
Yeah. Just letting a few more people in here and then we'll
Yeah.
get started.
Only seven participants.
Yeah, we had a lot more registered, so hopefully some more people will join. We can just get started. So, welcome everyone. My name is Jessica Rorison, and I'm with the Indigenous Business Development Services Program and Sage Hill Community Futures. And we're here offering these virtual training sessions. This program these virtual training sessions have been offered now for 4 years.
4 5 years, yeah.
So I'll send everybody a link to the YouTube channel when we're done because we're getting close to 100 virtual training sessions and they are so valuable, these resources. Um, every single aspect from marketing, photo taking, business expenses, business planning, everything that you can imagine as a business owner or somebody who works within a community organization or a municipality, these resources are so valuable and they're free to access. So before we get started, I just want to acknowledge that we are coming to you from Treaty 6 territory and
Oh
homeland
my
of the
God.
Métis. We pay our respects to the First Nations and Métis Métis ancestors of this place and reaffirm our relationship with one another. So today we're very fortunate to have Jenny Glusman here. Jenny works with Sage Hill Community Futures in Bruno. And so Jenny is an expert, works with so many clients in their office with business planning and helping with cash flow. And so Jenny is our facilitator today. So thank you all for joining. And just one reminder, there is a quick little survey that will pop up at the end of this session. And it'd be great if you could complete it so we can kind of use these resources and your information for future planning for other sessions. So thank you and welcome everyone. And thanks, Jenny.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm excited to be here. My name's Jenny Glusman, and I work with the Sage Hill Community Futures office. I'm the office coordinator, and I'm the one who meets with all the clients when they first call in. And 90% of them, it is about business plans. And I sometimes feel really bad when I start out by saying, do you have a business plan? I almost hear people go, and I can hear the fear in their voice. So I'm hoping today that we can try to take some of that fear out. And I don't know why we have that fear. I think because when we think business plan and what we've seen is we've always seen this big, thick thing full of graphs and, you know, all of that. We really, some of that we need and some of it we don't. What we really need is you to tell us the story of what your plan is. So I wanted to start out by just talking, you know, why do we have business plans? And it's a written document. It sets out your goals. I call it, and we always call it in this office, and I see it lots, it's a roadmap. How are you going to get from A to B? So how are you going to start your business? And this also could be if you're buying an existing business. What is the process? What is the steps that you need to do? And lots of times when we do a business plan, one of them, there's a couple purposes, but one is it's that roadmap. But secondly, if you're looking for financing. So if you're starting out, if you're, you know, starting your business, or if you're going to be purchasing an existing business, you're going to have to sit down with a financing institution, or it could be a community futures office, or it could be your traditional bank or credit union. And one of the first things they're going to ask you is if you have a business plan. And the reason they want that is it kind of lays out your idea. It shows them what you're planning to do. And when the end of the day comes, it shows how you're going to pay for it, how you're going to be able to repay your financing. But it also is a business. I always so say if you don't need financing, it's also very important because it gives you that step, and it's the planning. As you go through each of the steps, you'll be learning about things that you need to do as an entrepreneur. So with that being said, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and I'm actually going to put the template that we use here in the Community Futures office. And it's just a template that we can email out to you. You can fill it out online. You can print it, scribble on it, write on it. Or we also say you don't have to use the template. It can just be that a template. Feel free to open up a Word document and start typing. The biggest thing is to get your plans wrote down on a piece of paper. And I'll be honest, I've had people come into the office with their business plan wrote on 2 or 3 sheets of paper, handwritten, and it gives me all the information that we need. Sometimes, you know, we might have to ask for a few more things, but it's getting your idea down so that I think the biggest thing I like to tell people is remember who's reading it knows nothing. And I don't mean nothing as in a bad thing. They know nothing about you. They know nothing about your wonderful idea, and they don't know how you're going to get it. And and I don't want to sound bad, but in the bank world, you're going to get somebody that may know nothing about your rural community, may know nothing about what's in your community. So you have to form that picture in their mind as they sit there and read it. And unfortunately, a lot of our banks and credit unions now, they don't make those decisions here locally. It's sent up to somebody else. So again, they don't know anything about us. So we need to be able to, in our business plan, tell them about your community, tell them about your business idea, and tell about yourself. I know here in our office, we do what's called character lending. So your background is very important in a business plan. And I always like to say, and lots of times it's not in here, but I think you almost need to a section like a little resume. Who you are, why are you doing this? If someone says to me, I'm opening a restaurant, and they tell me they've been a plumber for the last 25 years, I might go, oh, what's the connection? Why? But if they tell me that they've been a plumber for 25 years and they've been working for so and they've done this and they've done that, and they're ready to branch out and be on their own, it makes sense. You see the fit that, what's and sometimes people do completely take a different direction, but they're passionate. We need to see that in our office. We like to see the passion in that. I know sometimes the banks, they aren't as much about that, but it's still good to put a section in there about you and why you're doing this. So that's my soapbox kind of thing, but it is a very personal. Lots of people say to us, why can't I just get somebody to write it for me? You can, but lots of times it doesn't tell your story. And it also sometimes doesn't let you find all the steps. And you'll see that as we go through parts of this today, you'll learn about different things as you go through that you need to do. So enough about that. Now I'm going to see if I can actually share my screen. Sometimes, yeah. You'll let me know if you can see the business plan on the screen.
Sure can.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So I hope not to make everybody seasick here as we scroll through. Normally in a business plan, if you're looking at one and you Google one, it starts with what's called the executive summary. And that executive summary is kind of for that person that doesn't want to read your whole business plan. They're just going to go to that front page and they're going to read it. The business plan that we use is a little bit different, but it still gives some of that really important information to start with. So when you're starting out, the who are you, the business name, that contact, where are you? We've received business plans that I've read and I don't even know what city the people are from. So, or where they're working from. So making sure you've got that information. Where's the business going to be located? And if it's your home, it's a home-based business, that's perfectly fine. Are you buying an existing business? Or is this a brand new idea? Because then the business plans do look a little bit different. Some of the things, now this is where some homework that you need to do before you actually start your business. How are you going to operate as in the ownership type? Is it a sole proprietorship? Are you in a partnership with somebody? Is it a cooperative? Is it are you incorporating? So those are specifics that when you go to the bank or you come here to Sage Hill, they need to know that information because it's different paperwork, it's different things needed. So it's important. And that's sometimes where you might have to do some homework, might be talking to an accountant, might be talking to a lawyer before you get doing some homework on what's best for your business type. What industry you're in. And this is, is it hospitality? Is it tourism? Is it agriculture? And that's just, the different industries are out there, just a little bit of information again. So whoever's reading it can get that picture in their mind. What's your plans for employee? Are you and if it's just you, one person, perfect. But if you think you're going to have some employees, that's important too, because again, that changes the look of your plan as you're going forward. I always say here, give a brief description. This is kind of like your elevator pitch. This is going to catch the lender's idea of what your purpose is. Sometimes I may read these and they go on, and I still at the end sit back and say, okay, what are they selling something? Are they manufacturing something? So be specific. It can be point form, tell if you're making something, or if you're opening a restaurant, what type of a restaurant. Is it a coffee shop? Is it a fine dining? Very specific and what the purpose of your business is going to be. And then comes, why have you chosen this? Why is this a great idea for you? Why is it? Maybe it's something you've been passionate about for years. You've been working in the industry and now you're ready to go out on your own. So it's this is where you can bring in your history, why this is important to you. And this is kind of that selling feature when you want to sell yourself and sell your business idea and why you've chose it. So that's kind of what we're asking for there. Now comes some more homework, kind of studying your market. And some people get this a little bit confused sometimes and sometimes not. This isn't the advertising. This is who are you going to sell your product to. And so this is where it comes to identifying your market area. And where are you selling? Are you selling just within your home community? Are you an online business? Are you, you might, and the reason I ask this is there are some reports that we can help people with, and I'll probably show you one of these. And it actually, sometimes when I'm talking to an entrepreneur, I'll say, how far do you think people will travel? And they might say, oh, they'll travel 25 kilometers around my community. Or I travel, so I'm willing to go 100 kilometers around. So that becomes your market. But it also isn't your whole. And then I'll say, well, how many, what do you think your customers were? And they'll say everybody in that area. This is being more specific, looking to the size and who do you think your customer is? And these first two questions kind of go together. Identifying your customer target market, demographic, what age, what gender, what, are they certain occupation? What's their lifestyle like? I attended a workshop one time and they actually made us create a person that we thought was our ideal customer. Because lots of times people will say, oh, it's everybody in my community. But then you'd start talking to them about their business idea. And it might be something, I know I was working with somebody that was doing like a mobility van, helping with seniors. Though they can't tell me their market, it might be everybody, but they're probably their target market would be seniors, maybe somebody with no driver's license, somebody that's in a wheelchair, that type of thing. So the market is always something specific. So you can't always answer it's everybody. And so there is help out there to help us with you getting this information. And I'm going to stop sharing this again, and I'm going to just show you, if I can find it. There's what we can call this, and shrink it again. We can see this. Okay, so this is what's called a P-Census report, and we actually can get these for you. And this one is actually for Rostern. And I think it goes about 25, and I don't mean to make everybody, I think it tells me on here, I can't remember. I think this was Rostern in about 25 kilometers. So they actually send us this fancy report. And so say somebody was doing a daycare and they wanted to know how many kids were in their area, it actually starts showing you that the population in this area, well, this is Rostern in 20 kilometers, it tells us between the ages of 0 and 4, there's 459 kids. Between the ages of 5 and 19, there's 1,479. So it gives you some very specific numbers that way. And most of the community futures offices can get these reports for you. But some of the other interesting thing, and I don't want to make everybody seasick, but it actually will break it down by male, female. So say you were opening a ladies' clothing store and you want to look at that younger age group. So maybe you want to go between the age of 20 and 35. You can actually say how many women are in that age group. Then you can start saying, okay, I might get 10% of them. So then you actually have a number to build into your reports. And it all fits in the next one down the road. We're going to be doing the projections. And that's where you can start saying, if I think I've got 10% of the customers now, I'm not good with math just off the top of my head, but I'm thinking we've got, if you've got 500 ladies here and you're getting 10% of that, okay, now you got to start looking at how many customers you need. So that's where this number stuff can help. But the other interesting part, and I'm sorry to make everybody seasick here, is this report, we can actually get you some spending habits, what people actually spend in different categories. based on the community. And if you're asking where this stuff comes, this is why it's so important for us to fill out our Stats Canada reports. And, when they do the census and you get the long form and we all groan about it, that's where this information comes from. So right here, they show you in this rostering in 20 kilometers, food expenditures per household is about $10,600. And it'll start breaking it down into healthcare, recreation, education. It even shows you, like what they're paying for tobacco products, alcohol products. So it all just kind of giving you some ideas about, and then here's the food broke down right into, bakery. If you're going to open a bakery, it would tell you roughly just to give you some ideas of some of the information, because I know people look at this and say, well, where do I get these numbers from? It's always educated guesses, but this is some of the stuff that we can get you to help figure out some of your stats. There's also industry reports that we can pull that for certain industries that will help you with some of this stuff. So before I move on, is there any questions from any of that? I'm going to stop sharing that one. No? Okay. I'll share back to the look, see if I can get back into this one. Promise I won't jump back and forth again. So this is this whole market, how big it is, who's your ideal customer, and then what's their buying habit? How often will they buy your product? So if you're a coffee shop, do you think your customers will come in once a day, once a month? So it's just kind of gets you thinking about how often, and it also starts to help you think if you can make a business of this. Is this a solid business idea? And by going through some of these steps, you start to see what you're needing. The next is the competition. And I know lots of times people will say to me, there's no competition in my community, I'm the only one. And competition is a good thing. We can learn lots from competition. And I always tell somebody when they've got a business idea, start looking at what somebody in another community is doing. See how their idea is working. What do you think are their strengths? What do you think their weaknesses are? And what are the opportunities for you? I always like to give the example of I was working with somebody that was looking at purchasing a flower shop. And I asked them about competition. And they said, oh, well, we're the only flower shop in town. And I said, by chance, does the grocery store sell flowers or anything like that? Oh, yeah, they do. I said, is that a competition? Well, no. And I said, they are a competition, but he said they had all the reasons why they weren't. And I said, those are perfect reasons. You've got larger bouquets, more options, things like that. But I said, but somebody running through picking up groceries could grab. So there's always looking outside the box at what the competition is, what they're offering, and it also will help you make your business plan stronger by looking at what they're offering. And not always, people always say, well, I'm going to be cheaper. Cheaper is not always the answer. Sometimes it's looking at what services they're offering. And especially in this day of age of everything online, we really have to look at what you're offering that will make you special. What makes you unique? And what would make you unique and get people to shop? And and I'm going to keep saying this, as a financing, if I'm offering you financing, I want to see that you've done that homework and what makes you stand out. Because yes, there may be 5 restaurants in your community, or there may be, I'm going to say, 3 hair salons, but what makes you special? What makes you stand out that would make people want to come to you? So that's this whole strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. It's, taking a serious look, and it may not just be a competition in your community. People travel. So it may be competition 20 kilometers down the road. It might be competition in the city, and you'll say, oh, people don't drive, but some will drive. So it's just taking a serious look at competition. And like I said, competition is good. We learn lots of things from it. And so this is what this is actually taking your competitors and breaking it down and doing some good homework on what they do. The next parts in here looks at products and services. Now, that's one of the things when you use a template is you got to pick and choose through what suits your product. You may be completely service oriented. So some of the questions may not answer, but this is where you're getting more detailed. What we did before when you gave a description, it was might have been general, kind of your elevator's speech, but here is really breaking down what products you're going to sell or what services that you're offering, giving lots of detail. And then why would your customer come and look for these? Why would they want to buy your products? So it's just digging in and letting somebody know. And also this also becomes a time where who are your suppliers? So if I'm going to use my husband and I own a lumber yard. So when we sat down to do this, who are your suppliers? And this is the time that if you're new in an industry, you can start looking, where are you going to buy your products? Where are you going to get your inventory from? If you're building something from scratch, if you're manufacturing, what do you need? Who's going to supply it? And looking at, do they have minimums? What's the minimum order? In your small community or where you're located, do those work? Do I have to find an alternative? So it's finding out where you can buy things. What do you need? So this is starting the homework of what you're going to need to do your business. Then comes pricing. And this one, everybody always goes, oh, I don't know what to charge, or I'm just going to charge a little bit less than the other person charged. This is where some homework needs to be done. We actually sometimes do some exercises where and I always use the restaurant as an example, is what does it cost you to put that meal on a plate? So if you're breakfast place and you're going to sell breakfast, what does it cost you to do your standard breakfast? 2 eggs, piece of bacon, 3 pieces of bacon, and 2 pieces of toast and a coffee. Price it out. What does it cost you? Lots of times people say, oh, the competition charges this, but their meal maybe isn't as big as yours. So pricing out, what does it cost for each egg? What does it cost for 2 slices of toast? And I know this sounds tedious, but in the long run, it's going to help you once you price your items, whether it be that or I know we had a lady that was doing beading. She had a price on her earrings and she was selling them. But when she actually broke the prices down, she wasn't making anything. You have to allow for your time and your labor. That's worth something. And when we worked that all in for her, she was way underpriced. But she was selling lots, but she was underpriced and not really making anything. So pricing your products. And that's why by finding your suppliers, you then can get the homework of what it costs to bring the different stuff in. And then you can come up with your prices. And then doing some comparison. I always say, watch what other businesses are doing, what the competition is selling for. That's all good things to do, but you also need to do some homework yourself. Will you offer some things to think about? Will you offer discounts if someone pays you cash? If they want to buy a large quantity? Will you have sales? Because that is all things that you need to be thinking out, because down the road, that also becomes part of your marketing and sales plans down the road. This is more if you were manufacturing something, like you've got an invention that you've made and now you're going to manufacture it. Thinking about all the stages. Do you have the equipment to do it? Do you have the building to do it? Do you need labor? Breaking out. And then it talks about once you start selling them, are you doing guarantees? Are you thinking about warranty? Stuff about that. What is the process? What's all the steps to get to the finished product? And then how are you getting that finished product out to the public? Another thing I always like people to take a few minutes to think about is quality control. How are you going to keep inventory? If you're a retail business, a little bit around and again, from the financing side of it, people want to know how you're going to keep track of your inventory. Lots of times businesses get in trouble if their inventory is out of control. So what kind of a system are you going to set up? Same thing, packaging. You're manufacturing something. How are you going to package it to sell? What's that going to cost? Is it going to cost you to ship it out? So it's doing some of that research around that. And this is a big one, legal requirements. If we have a lot of people that want to make food products at home. What has to be on the label, what kind, so that's there's lots of research as you're doing your business plan. And that's what this idea is with each of the questions. It gets you thinking. Special requirements, legal requirements when you're labeling a product, like especially, and I'll use the food industry as an example. You have to label it certain ways, and it's finding out where to get that information. And that's again where something like our community futures offices across the province, we can help you find the people. We may not have the information, but we can find you specialists that can get you that information. And then looking at, again, like this is depending on the type. If you're manufacturing something and you need to sell it, who is going to wholesale it for it? Are you just going to sell it as a retail product? So there's just, again, more things to think about. We won't spend a whole bunch of time there. Industry. Depending on the industry that you're going to go into, I'm going to talk about, sometimes there's regulations that you need to look into. Do you have to have special license? Let's use the industry of a hair salon. To actually own your own hair salon, you have to be a journeyman stylist. A plumber, you have to have your licensing. So it's looking into that. If you're going to be a restaurant, you have to have your food handlers. You have to have, the health inspections come in. This also can be, and then looking at each industry, there are reports that we can get pulled around this that'll show you what the trends are in an industry. I know I was looking at one not that long ago around the taxi cab industry. So there's different industries that they have these industry reports that will help you with some of these things. And again, financiers like to look that you've done your homework, that you're not going to get started and get into some kind of trouble. So the business plan, again, is always making sure that you've thought about all the different areas that you might need and what their costs are going to be. Because maybe some of these regulations, licenses, there's fees attached to them. So you need to know what those fees are going into this. I don't know if it fits here, but business licenses are another one. Depending in your small community, you may need a business license. So we always tell people as they're starting their business plan, talk with your town office or your city hall and find out what the business license cost is, whether you're working from your home or if you're working from a storefront. So that can be another thing. Some communities, there's nothing. I know here in Bruno, we just brought it in a few years ago. So those are all little things that you need to, as you're planning, tick, got my business license, tick, I've done this. So this is what this is helping you do, is walk through each of the sections. And then, is there anything happening in the industry that could economically, that could happen? If you're the importing and exporting, if you're in that industry and our dollar was way down, how does that affect you? What's some of the other ones? Technology. Do you need to, is technology, using computers, IT, the scam world, do you need to have special things for that? So, just that whole what's happening. And I always use the food industry as a perfect example. When our liquor laws changed here, that really hurt our lounges and our small town bars. We became from the town bar to more of we've seen that industry change more into a food service industry. And that's because of a trend that happened in the industry. So, and sometimes they like, again, whoever's reading this looks like you've looked and you've done all your homework in all the different areas. Then moves on to promotion, advertising. How are you going to let people know you're out there? You're brand new, you're on the corner in your little community, and how are you going to get the word out there that you're there? So this sometimes takes some work. And what's your plan? Do you see yourself using social media? Do you plan on a website? The website, what is it going to cost you? And this is almost a plan within the plan, your advertising, because this can be a chunk of your budget. So laying out what you think what you want to use, then researching what it's going to cost you. What message do you want? Are you, and your message can also be around your branding and what you want to tell people, depending on what your business is. Are you going to run promotions, and what's that going to cost you to run a promotion? So again, it can be simple. It could be, I'm new in town, I'm going to use word of mouth, I'm going to use social media, and I'm maybe going to put flyers out. But that's, that you've got a plan how you're going to get the word out. And then down the road, you can start sitting and looking and seeing what's working and what's not working. Before I go any further, any questions on that part? Lots of information. Then we go into, now this is just breaking down ownership. And if it's just you, that's fine. But if you've got a partner, who's your partner? Who's got controlling parts? Who's going to do what? Do you have a partnership agreement if there's two or more of you? Even if it's a spouses or best friends, we always say you should have some kind of a partnership agreement and talk about. And who's going to do what? And here again, this is the selling thing. You might, I'm going to use the example of my husband and I. He could sell anything to anybody. That's his department. I'm not the salesperson. I'm the books person. I'm kind of the nerd and like the numbers. So in our business, I'm the bookkeeper. I look after the numbers. He sells and does all the ordering and working with the people. And that, so we laid that out. What everybody's duties is so that when somebody's looking at it, they can say, oh, who's doing this? Or you've missed something. It also is a time, and this is a big one, professionals. And this will also help you start thinking about some of the things that you need to think about as a business owner. Do you have an accountant? What are you going to, who are you going to do your own bookkeeping? Just take your books to somebody at the end of the year? If that's the case, what's the cost? So you have to do some homework on that. A lawyer is always, as a business owner, should have a lawyer in place to help. So do you have one? What's the costs? Insurance. This is a big one, whether you've got a building and property, inventory, and then liability insurance. So this is always, I always like this part in a business plan because it twigs people to stop and think and actually talk to an insurance agent and see what it's going to cost you. Because in the next workshop, we're going to do the cash flow projections and budgeting. And if you've done this homework when you did your business plan, you now know that it's going to cost you this for insurance, this for liability insurance, going to cost me this for an accountant, this I got to do myself because I can't afford it. You've laid out all the steps of professionals that you might need. And we like to have a really good conversation around bookkeeping because as a business owner, you really need to know where you're at. And that's why your business plan shouldn't be done and stuck on a shelf. You should take it out every so often and look at it and see if things are happening the way you planned. Sometimes they don't. We meet obstacles or things happen and they don't. And you should never feel that you can't tweak them and changing. It's a working document. But thinking about some of these things, and especially the bookkeeping, you may find at first you're so busy doing. I was watching something one day and it said that a business owner works 3 full-time jobs. You're the bookkeeper, you're the marketer and salesperson, and you're the doer. You actively doing all of it. So it's sometimes you might have to say, I can't do this part. But you need to work it into your business plan that you can hire that out. So sometimes it's a good thing just to think about that as you're starting your plans. And then this stuff is where if you're going for financing, they want to know this, the location. Are you owning it? Are you renting? Are you leasing? What's your plan? It's a home front. I'm working out of my basement in my home. What is your plan for your business? And if you're renting, who is it? What's the costs? It's just those questions. I bought a building, now I got to renovate it. there goes some more homework. What do I need to do to get this building to where I need? Or I'm going to work out of my basement. I need to renovate. What is that going to cost? And I'm not going to point fingers at Jessica, but I know you guys just opened a business and it, had to do some renovations, right? So what is
Yeah.
that doing that homework of what it's going to cost? Because when it comes down to this, the financer wants to see where you're spending money. If you come to me and say, I need $25,000 to open my business, the first question they're going to be is, how are you spending it? And it might be renovations. I need to redo my basement so that I've got a workspace, or I need to buy this piece of equipment. So this is where this stuff comes in, and these questions and how you're setting things up. If it is new equipment that you're needing, attach it in there, a piece of paper with a quote, get your
Mhm.
quotes.
I think too, Jenny, one thing is that this process, I think, is really handy before you actually start buying anything or launch anything, because we didn't do that. We did it after, when we were looking for financing. So, I mean, it's just what it is. We knew kind of what was needing to be done, but it kind of went fast, and it was step by step. Oh, we need this. Oh, we need a sink in our garage. Oh, we need freezer, So I just would suggest everyone, like, really, this is the first point. It's literally like sitting down to figure out, like, can I do this? Can I actually afford it? And can I make money at it before you spend anything on it? So
I
just
wholeheartedly, and that's perfect. That's exactly, because lots of times people get into it and then you're going to have surprises. But if you go through the business planning steps
Mhm.
and look at all of those areas, especially, and I always say sometimes we do this backwards.
I
Sometimes
know.
I
Yeah.
think sometimes, and I know one of our consultants says that too, that you should start with your projections
Mhm.
and then work your way back. But the
Mhm.
business plan, if you read the questions and you think about it, it's actually prompting you to think about, like when it says, I've had so many people say, well, why is an insurance agent a professional? But all that is it's supposed to be twigging you to talk to an insurance agent and see what it's going to cost you and put it
Mhm.
into your plan. And it's the same thing when you're looking at a space. Do I need to renovate it, or is it perfect the way it is? If I do, then making that list of all the things you need to do to make it perfect.
Mhm.
And then you may have to say, oh, I don't have the money. I can't do that. Then it becomes a 2-year or 3-year plan.
Mhm.
I can do this year to get me open. I'll do this in year 2 if things go good, and I'll finish it up in year 3. So it is a working plan.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
I agree. And I just think too that a lot of times people think, oh, I need a business plan because I need a loan. But at that point, it's almost too late. You should have known what the plan was before you knew you needed to borrow how much money. Just because it's easy to, well, not easy, but it's lenders want to lend dollars. So if you had done a better job of preparing, maybe in the front end, you might have only needed 20,000, but now you're sitting at the desk of a lender and maybe like, oh, you qualify for 30,000. Great. So, just like being really aware of what your project costs are going to look like before you even engage with any lenders, just so that you're aware of what you can afford.
the business plan, I don't want to scare anybody. Write them as simple as you possible. This is one of, you just tick the boxes and move your way through. And that's like we're getting down to how much financing do you need? And it's just simple questions. This is what I'm buying, or this is what I'm doing, and this is where the money's coming from. I've got this much money. I need to borrow this much. I maybe got a personal investor. Sometimes people, they don't take their business plan to a bank. They take it to a friend who they want to invest with them, become their partner. So it's just laying this stuff out. So that is basically the business plan. So the major thing is what you're doing, what your market is, who's your customer, what are you selling, is it a product or a service, and The biggest thing is forming a picture in somebody's mind that you're setting it to. And it's also your roadmap so that you can see if you've hit everything along the way. And I don't and I love owning a business. It's the best thing that my husband and I ever did. I still do this. This is my calm. But for some people it is the best way to make a living. It is, their passion. But if you plan properly, this becomes your roadmap. And we have many people that say, "Hey, I'm right on my targets," and they're so excited because, or they'll say, "Oh, I'm way over what or I'm not quite hitting. What do I need to tweak to make things better?" And that's why you've got something to go back and look at and see what you need to tweak. There's lots of us out here that are willing, to help and proofread and give you ideas, but I'm a strong believer in writing your own business plan. Because you can only be passionate about what you want to do. And I think the more passion that you put in and the more time you put into your business plan, in the end, you'll reap the benefits from it. That is the business plan without going into a whole bunch of the numbers, which we're going to do next time. But if anybody I'm maybe going to stop sharing my screen. And if anybody has any questions, I'd love to hear them. Or if you're working on one and you have a question, we've got some time we can answer or try to answer. And if not, that's fine too.
Where's everybody at with their planning, and what are you planning for? Laura.
Hi. I don't have any questions at this point, but just wanted to thank you for walking us through the template. I did spend some time after you sent out the template going through it and filling it out, and I've kind of I've done my own business because I'm already doing business,
Mhm.
but I'm a consultant and I'm independent and I'm just doing it on my own. So I don't have, I'm not selling anything other than my services. I don't have employees. I'm a home-based business and whatnot. But I have been thinking about expansion and I've been thinking about the potential of what expansion might look like. And so this was really helpful to go through with
Yep.
somebody who knows what they're doing and who does this for a living too, rather than me sitting and going, I wonder what they mean by that. And I wonder what they mean by that. So thanks very much.
Oh, you're welcome. And that's what happens with lots of people. They read this, but when it's simple. And I shouldn't say it's simple, but it's telling your story and what your idea is. And especially if you're wanting to expand. Lots of people say, I'm expanding. Why do I need a business plan? But this is how it was, and this is what I think it will look like if I expand. And what are those costs going to be? I know I was working with a gentleman who had rented his building forever and now he was going to buy it. He said, "Well, why do I need a business plan?" I said, "You've got new expenses now as the owner of the business." He was like, "Oh." I said, "Well, you used to pay rent, but now you got taxes. Did you pay utilities before?" "Oh, no, I didn't." So it's just the business plan walks you through the steps so that you don't miss something, is what I always call it. Like I said, that good old roadmap, how you're going to get from A to B.
Yeah.
So great. And like I've said a couple times, the next one in 2 weeks, the 21st.
Yeah, so
we-
I'll actually send out, that one is officially full. So with the group, I'll just send the the Zoom link to you directly so that you don't have troubles signing up or logging in. It's the cash flow one, and it is on well, Jenny, I'm gonna have to look it up here because
I think it's the 21st. And we're actually going to go from how you go from your business plan to the actually making the projections and how you put those numbers in place so that you've actually can start to see if your idea can make money. And it's a simple template. It's Excel spreadsheet. And I always say I like to take out my crystal ball but it's some educated guesses and how to come up with those educated guesses to make your best effort to make your projections, because the banks, credit unions, and the Community Futures Office will always ask for up to 3 years of projections. So it's part of it. But if you've got this base and you've done this homework of looking these things up as you've gone through, and if you come up to something and say, oh, I don't know what that cost is, and you've got that homework done beforehand, it will really help you when it comes to doing those projections. And so that's the next one coming up.
Mhm.
And you'll
So-
send out the link to the YouTube channel that you mentioned
Yeah,
at the
I sure
beginning as
will.
well with
Yeah.
that. Great.
Yeah.
I'm looking
I'll
forward
do
to
both.
looking at that.
Mhm.
Yes. Okay, well, if that's everybody, I hope it was helpful today. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. And have a wonderful rest of your week. And maybe we'll see everybody back on the 21st.
Thanks
Perfect.
so much.
Thank you.